Again, kids have felt unsafe in schools because we've seen these shootings happen time and again, and so here we are once again with John Matthews, a security expert and director of the Community Safety Initiative. John, it seems like we have to turn to you way too many times these days, and here we go again. This time, the location is in South Florida. We have a lot of questions about this. First, though, can we talk about the suspect? Because in this case, it wasn't long before police had someone in custody not too far away from this school. What does that tell you as far as the investigatory work that happened here? It seems like it happened in a flash.
Well, the shooter wasn't ready to die. That's obvious. Usually these shooters will barricade themselves in an area and either take themselves out or be taken out by law enforcement because they have no escape plan. This shooter, though, went to blend in with the crowd and thought he was going to get away that way. I don't know why. There's probably some issues that we'll have to look in there because the students knew who it was. Early on, the students knew who it was. They identified him to police, and police were able, even though he got out with the crowd, they were able to quickly identify him. So that is out of the norm. Many of these school shooters, you know, never leave the scene.
John, we always like to pick your brain in these situations about what went right as far as the evacuation went or the safety protocols and what went wrong. I'm a dad of two. Both of them are in high school. I can't even imagine what these parents are going through today as they wait for word from their kid. From what you've been seeing, and I know that you have contacts all over the place, and from what you've been hearing, what went right as far as the procedures today to try to keep these kids safe?
Well, I think what went right is there were procedures. The schools had lockdown procedures, they had evacuation procedures. The kids had done drills, they had practice, they knew what to do once they were directed. I think what went wrong was in the beginning there was a lot of confusion. First they were told to evacuate and started to evacuate, maybe following the fire alarm or instructions from the principal. Then they were told to lock down. So then you're moving, first are we just supposed to run? Or are we supposed to lock ourselves down? That's where the confusion came in. I think another thing that was a little disconcerting to me is there wasn't a designated reunion site for the kids. You heard many stories. When this first broke, the first interviews you heard were from the Walmart, from the convenience store, from the neighborhood. That's where reporters found children that ran from the school. Schools have to have a primary reunification site so the kids know where to go and where law enforcement goes. So law enforcement should be going there so they can protect those children, and then of course a secondary off-site location.
You know, something that really bugged me, John, was when I was looking at these kids running out of this school initially, not when they were in that nice orderly line, but when they were really booking it out of there when this was first taking place. I saw so many kids with these backpacks on their backs. It looked like, there you see them putting them into a pile. Okay, that was a little bit later on. But at first, these kids are running with these, it looked like a 40-pound backpack on their back, and they look like they're just about to collapse. Throw that thing down and get out of there.
You saw the kids with their personal belongings. You saw girls with large purses, kids with backpacks, even people carrying instruments. It's, what important to them that was sitting by their desk. Don't do that. Leave it. And not just leave it, push it under your desk so that other people running behind you don't trip. If you're in a cafeteria, shove it under the table in the cafeteria. You got to remember, you've got hundreds of people trying to exit rooms, cafeterias, gyms, and the building, and you want to get those things out of the way. You don't want to slow yourself down. You want to be able to move quickly and exit as far from that shooter as you can.
So get rid of that weight, though, and get out of there.
Get rid of the extra weight. And one of the things that we tell them is if you're inside the building, usually in these situations, when you're inside the school, lockdown is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, they said he was going door to door and was encountering some locked doors.
That's right. That shooter is going to look for that unlocked door. He's going to look for that open cafeteria. They're looking for body count. However, if you're outside already, if you're out on the playground at an elementary, if you're on an athletic field, simply exit. Get out of there. Get away from that facility because you're already safe away from that shooter. Those are the real practical things that we need to practice with our kids every day when we do these drills.
It's almost like you have to drill it yourself with them, and I do this with my kids, and they roll their eyes, and here you're talking about this again. again, you're always talking about this, but you have to really get it into their heads. You deal with schools and school districts. They're teaching these kids drills as well. Are they getting it right most of the time?
A lot of time I've seen the drills are not practical. They're not realistic. You know, they're having kids stand up and very orderly walk out. At the end of the situation, like you saw today, that's fine. But there was that chaos in the beginning. You've got to tell those children exactly what you want them to do, how you want them to do it, and you've got to practice it with them. Rehearse it, right? It's like any sport. How many times do we rehearse hitting a baseball, kicking a soccer ball? Compare that to how many times we rehearse a lockdown or a school evacuation. That's someone's life. That's someone's children. And yet we put more emphasis on rehearsing sports than we do keeping alive. It is important that schools look at their drills and make sure that they actually fit that school and that situation. The difference in the school today, this was a Florida school, many outdoor hallways, many entrances and exits to the building. You've got to take that all into consideration when you develop your school plan. And all too often, Jason, I've seen schools that basically cut and paste these school plans.
There are going to be so many lessons that come out of this, and I know that this is what you focus in on very primarily every time we have one of these. What can we learn from this one to prevent people from dying the next time? Because sad to say it, but there will be a next time. It just keeps happening. John, will you stick around for a little while?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much again for the insight there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.